There are many stages in spiritual growth, and each one is valuable. However, some stages take you higher and deeper into understanding. Even if you're not at a higher stage yet, it's good to know about them so you can recognize them when you reach them. Think of these stages as signposts, guiding you along the way. The first stage is being completely lost. What does that mean? It means you're so focused on your ego that you believe it's who you are. When you say I, you're talking about a collection of thoughts and memories built from past experiences, both good and bad, that you've held onto. Instead of letting these experiences flow through you, you've clung to them and they've stayed stuck inside. We all know what this looks like. When you go through a bad experience, you don't want to feel it, so you push it away. But even though you suppress it, it doesn't go anywhere. It stays inside. Anytime something reminds you of it, the feeling comes back, and you push it down again because you don't want to deal with it. The same thing happens with good experiences. If something feels really good, you don't want to let it go. You keep replaying it in your mind to hold on to the pleasure. Over time, this habit of clinging to the good and avoiding the bad creates a trap. These emotions and thoughts don't stay outside of you in the real world. They're not happening anymore. The events are over. But in your mind, they're still there because you didn't let them go. Here's the thing. Ego is just a pattern of thought. It's not the real you. Your ego defines who you think you are, but it's based only on the experiences you chose to hold on to. Think about how many things you experience every day. Trees, clouds, cars passing by. Those don't become part of your identity. They just pass through you. But when something strikes you deeply, whether it feels really good or really bad, you grab onto it. You either resist it, suppress it, or cling to it. And that's why it stays. The truth is, nothing naturally stays. Events happen, and they're supposed to move on. Each moment has its own time to exist, and then it's gone. The next moment has the same right to exist. But when you hold on to past events, you block yourself from fully experiencing what's happening now. You're too busy replaying or resisting the past. This is the essence of be here now. The present moment is the only thing that's real. If you let go of the mental clutter, you can truly experience life as it unfolds, instead of being stuck in the patterns your ego created. Events from yesterday, last week, or even your childhood, they aren't real anymore. They only exist in your head because you've held onto them, but in reality, they're gone. Similarly, the future isn't real either. It hasn't happened yet, so it only exists in your imagination. The future is just a collection of thoughts, things you hope for or fear. Here's the thing. The stuff you've stored from the past gets projected onto your future. You might think, what if this bad thing happens again? Or, I really hope this good thing happens again. But this way of thinking isn't being here now. Be here now means focusing on what's happening right in front of you. What's happening in the universe right now. How do you know it's real? Because it's happening to you in this very moment. That moment is uniquely yours. Other people around you might be busy with something else, shopping, talking, or thinking about their own lives. But the moment you are experiencing is only for you. No one else will ever experience that exact moment in the same way. Each moment you experience is brand new. It has never happened before, and it will never happen again. Think about that. It's like a private gift from the universe. How do I know it's just for you? Because you're the only one who sees it from your perspective. No one else can see it exactly as you do. Isn't that amazing? That's how special you are. If you really understood this, it might bring tears to your eyes. Each moment you experience is holy. It's unique. It was created just for you. And as soon as it passes, it's gone forever. It will never come back. This is what makes each moment so precious. If you allow the moment to happen, it flows through you. You experience it fully, learn from it, and then it moves on. Then, the next moment arrives, and you do the same. This doesn't mean you forget everything. Of course, you have memories. But memories are not the same as resisting or clinging to something. Resisting and clinging are things you actively do with your will. A memory, on the other hand, is natural. Your brain has an incredible storage system. It holds everything effortlessly. You don't have to try to remember. It just happens. When you experience something, it's automatically stored in your memory, like a massive computer storing data. But when you resist or cling to an experience, you interrupt its natural flow. Instead of letting it pass through you, you stop it. You trap it inside. This is what creates a samskara, a kind of mental impression. A samskara is different from a normal memory. It's what happens when an experience doesn't pass through naturally. You hold on to it, and it stays stuck in your mind. Normally, experiences come and go. You feel them, learn from them, and let them move on. You can recall them later if you need to, but they don't come back on their own unless you pull them up. When you let moments flow naturally, you're living in the present, fully experiencing life as it happens. That's what it means to be here now. The things that pop up in your mind on their own, the ones you didn't invite, are the things you didn't let go of. These are the experiences you resisted or clung to, and now they're trying to get out. It's not natural to hold on to things like this. The natural way is to let them pass through you. Living in the moment, being present. That's your natural state. Life presents you with each moment as it happens. Honor it, respect it, engage with it fully, love it, cherish it, do your best in it. But don't cling to it once it's gone. It's silly to hold on to something that's no longer here. Yet most of us don't live this way. Instead, we cling to the things we like and resist the things we don't. The funny thing is, we even hold on to the experiences we hated the most. Think about it. Why would you store the very things that upset you the most? Why keep them alive in your mind and heart so they can continue bothering you? But we do this, don't we? If we didn't, there wouldn't be a need for therapists or psychology. Instead of letting bad experiences go, we trap them inside. We carry them around, letting them shape how we think, feel, and act, sometimes for our entire lives. Take a moment to think about this. Really reflect on it. You might not know how to stop holding on, but you can stop. It's possible. Here's what happens. Life keeps bringing new experiences to you, but instead of letting them flow naturally, you grab onto the ones you really liked and the ones you really didn't like. Over time, you use these experiences to build your ego. You say, I'm the person who likes this, or I'm the person who doesn't like that. You even say, I'm the person this happened to. This creates what's called a self-concept. It's the idea of who you think you are, but it's not the real you. The real you is the awareness inside, the one who notices all these things happening. Your self-concept is just a collection of thoughts and feelings built from past experiences that you identify with. Sometimes these stored experiences come up on their own, whether you want them to or not. And when they do, they bother you. How do you know they bother you? Because you're aware of it. You can feel it. You can see it happening inside you. This awareness is the real you. If something feels good, it's you who feels it. If something feels bad, it's still you who feels it. There's only one you. That awareness, that consciousness, it's always been there. Were you aware yesterday, last year, 10 years ago? Of course you were. That's the part of you that never changes. The things you experience do change, though. What you focus on changes. The self-concept you've built over time changes too, as you keep adding new pieces to it. But the awareness behind it all, that part of you that sees and feels and knows, has been the same since the beginning. You're not having the same experiences you had at 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 years old. But you, the awareness, has always been there. Spirituality isn't complicated. It doesn't require beliefs or anything difficult. It's as simple as recognizing that the real you is the awareness behind it all. You've been holding on to all these past experiences, storing them inside. But your consciousness, the real you, gets stuck focusing on them. The first stage of spiritual growth, or really spiritual non-growth, is this. Your awareness becomes completely fixated on your ego and self-concept. It's consumed by what you like, what you don't like, what you want, what you don't want, and all the things that happen to you, good or bad. This fixation is one big reason people turn to things like drugs or alcohol. Why do they do it? Because they're trying to escape from the mess they've stored inside. Think about it. If you didn't have all this garbage in your mind, these unresolved feelings, frustrations, and desires, why would you need to escape? What's fun about getting drunk if you're already at peace? For many, it's more fun than sitting with the uncomfortable thoughts and emotions they've trapped inside. If you hadn't held on to all that mental baggage, these problems wouldn't exist in the first place. This state of being lost is the starting point for most people. At this stage, your consciousness doesn't know what it really is, where it is, or who it is. Instead, it's fixated on your ego and your psyche, constantly thinking about how to get what it wants and avoid what it doesn't want. Your entire focus is on managing and maintaining this self-concept, trying to control your life to align with your preferences. This is the default state for most human beings. Even your heart plays along in this game. When you think about something you like, your heart feels good and opens up. When you think about something you don't like, your heart tightens and feels bad. It's as if your mind and heart are working together, caught in a loop of reacting to your psyche. This loop, your thoughts, feelings and reactions, is what makes up your psyche. And instead of recognizing that you're separate from it, you spend your life staring at it. The first step toward awakening is realizing this. I'm staring at my psyche. I'm not my psyche. I'm the one watching it. This is a big shift because until then, you believe you are your thoughts, your feelings, and your reactions. When you're in this unweakened state, your whole life revolves around getting what you want, avoiding what you don't want, and constantly thinking about how to make that happen. This cycle repeats endlessly. Hasn't this been your experience? It's the default mode of being, and it's exhausting. The truth is, your psyche is built from the garbage you've stored, the unresolved things you didn't like or couldn't let go of, and the ratio is completely skewed. For every one amazing moment you hold on to, like when someone you've admired finally noticed you, there are thousands of little things you've stored that you didn't like. Someone said something rude. Someone didn't say something you wanted to hear. The weather wasn't perfect. Someone cut you off in traffic without signaling. Every little annoyance adds to the pile. Most of what you've stored inside is made up of things you disliked. The rare, joyful moments are few and far between compared to the countless small frustrations you've clung to. Even worse, you don't just get upset about the bad things that happen. You also get upset about the good things that don't happen. You create dissatisfaction by imagining things that could have been better but weren't. This imbalance, the overwhelming focus on the negative, is part of what keeps you trapped. And waking up means starting to see this clearly. You're not staring at something perfect or well-made. You're staring at a tangled mess of unresolved emotions, desires, and disappointments. But here's the good news. Once you realize this, you can start to separate yourself from it. You can begin to let go. The first stage of spiritual growth is when you don't even realize what's going on inside you. You're completely caught up in your thoughts and emotions, following them without question. You're busy being the I that your mind has created. You do what it tells you to do, say what it tells you to say, avoid what it tells you to avoid, and sometimes regret what you've said or done because it didn't feel right afterward. That's life when you're lost in this inner cycle. Let's be honest. What is it really like to live in that state? It feels chaotic, doesn't it? This constant mental chatter and emotional turbulence come from the unresolved experiences and feelings you've stored in your mind. That's the garbage piling up, and it influences everything you do. Now, here's the good news. There's a point where you begin to wake up. This is the first stage of spiritual awakening. It's not a massive, earth-shattering realization just yet, but it's an important step. You start to notice what's happening inside you. You realize, wait, I'm here, I'm aware. I can see these thoughts running through my mind, and I can feel my heart opening and closing. This is the start of what's called witness consciousness. It's the moment you understand, I'm not the thoughts or emotions I'm looking at. I'm the one who's looking. For example, when you feel depressed, you realize I'm not the depression. I'm the awareness observing this state of mind. And this state can change at any moment. Imagine you're heartbroken because your partner left you. You feel miserable. You can't eat, you can't sleep, and you don't feel like talking to anyone. But then, suddenly, they call you. They apologize, pouring their heart out, saying, I made a huge mistake. I love you. Can I come see you? In an instant, your mood flips. You're no longer depressed. You're energized and excited. What changed? It wasn't you. It was the psyche you were observing. The circumstances shifted, and so did the psyche's response. You weren't the depression. You were watching it happen. As you wake up more, you start to see this clearly. You're not the ups and downs of your emotions. You're the consciousness that notices them. You're the one who's aware of what's happening inside. Here's a simple question to prove this. Do you have thoughts? How do you know? Do you feel emotions? How do you know? It's because you're the one noticing them. Most people focus so much on the emotions themselves, how strong they are, whether they're good or bad, that they never pause to realize they're the observer. True spirituality isn't about fixing the emotions. It's about realizing that you're the awareness behind them. When you understand this, it's like shining a light. The light itself doesn't change. It doesn't matter if it's illuminating something beautiful or broken, something joyful or painful. The light, your awareness, just observes. it remains constant. This is a key part of waking up, realizing that the self, the real you, is untouched by the ups and downs of your psyche. The awareness that notices your thoughts and emotions isn't affected by them. It's simply there, observing everything. And that awareness, that's who you really are. At this stage of waking up, you begin to understand something crucial about your life and your experiences. The way you've been living, trapped in your thoughts and emotions, doesn't make sense anymore. You realize, I can't keep living like this. It's exhausting. It's a step forward, but there's a lot to unpack here. Here's what often happens at this stage. You start to feel like life has been unfair to you. You think, my parents messed me up. My partner hurt me. My friends betrayed me. That teacher, that coach, that boss, they all treated me unfairly. I didn't make the team, didn't get the promotion, didn't get the recognition I deserved. That's why I feel the way I do. But here's the truth. Yes, those things happened, but they're not the real reason you're stuck. The real reason is that you're holding on to them. If you hadn't clung to those experiences, they wouldn't still be affecting you. The situations came and went, but you didn't let them go. Instead, you stored them inside you, replaying them over and over, giving them the power to bother you long after they were over. For example, imagine someone criticizes you, saying, I didn't like what you did. That wasn't right. If you take it personally, you might spiral. How could they say that? That's so unfair. And just like that, you're pulled into the mess. But what if instead you thought, well, maybe they're having a rough day. People have bad moods, just like they have bad hair days. No big deal. And you let it go. That's a completely different experience, isn't it? Letting go doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending nothing bothers you. It's not about gritting your teeth and saying, I can handle this. That's not true letting go. That's just managing the reaction after it's already taken hold. Here's the difference. When you say, I can handle this, you're already admitting that it got to you. You noticed the sting, you felt the emotion, and now you're working to move past it. That's okay. It's progress. But there's an even better way. The next phase of awakening is understanding that there's nothing inside you that needs to handle anything. Think about it. Do you handle the fact that the sun is shining? Do you need to handle a car driving by? Do you handle the clouds in the sky or the sound of birds chirping? No, you just let those things be as they are. It's the same with life's challenges. Instead of saying, I can handle this, the goal is to simply let the moment flow through you without resistance. It's not about pushing it down or ignoring it. It's about realizing it doesn't need to stick. When you reach this phase, you can face criticism, tough situations, or unexpected events with ease. You don't have to convince yourself you can deal with it because you already know you can. You don't get stuck in overthinking or emotional reactions. Instead, you experience the moment, learn from it if needed, and let it pass. This is the freedom you're working toward, living without the weight of all those stored experiences pulling you down. It's not about forcing yourself to be strong. It's about realizing you already are. Life happens, and you're fully capable of handling it, just like you handle every breath, every step, and every heartbeat without even trying. When you're growing spiritually, you might find yourself at a stage where you say, I noticed this bothered me, but I caught it, and now I'm going to handle it. That's actually a great step forward. Many people don't even reach that point. They just say, "I can't deal with this," and lash out at others or fall apart emotionally. But here's the truth. Even though catching yourself is progress, it still means the situation got to you. It bothered you enough that you had to stop yourself and make a choice to let it go. That's fine for now. It's a stage of growth. But there's a deeper level to aim for. As you keep practicing, you'll reach a point where you don't even need to handle it. Why? Because you've already decided deep down, "I'm not going to let this bother me. I'm not going to hold on to it. I'm not going to analyze it or try to understand why it happened. It doesn't matter." At this stage, things still come in. Maybe a comment, a situation, or an emotion. And they might feel a little weird for a moment. But you don't get pulled into it. You don't overthink it or try to figure out why you feel that way. Instead, you simply let it pass. It's like deciding in advance. I'm not storing anything else inside me, positive or negative. My mind and heart are already full of enough stuff. Why add more? And this applies to good experiences too, not just the bad ones. Imagine you have an amazing vacation. The weather is perfect. The scenery is breathtaking, and you feel so happy. That's great. You should enjoy it. But sometimes, after a wonderful experience, there's a part of you that clings to it. You think, "I don't want this to end. I don't want to go back to work or my regular life." When you hold on like that, even something positive can mess you up. Instead of enjoying your life after the vacation, you're stuck wishing you were still there. The more mature way to handle it is to fully enjoy the experience and then let it go. Think, "That was beautiful. Now I'm going to take the joy and energy I felt and bring it into my everyday life, my work, my home, my relationships." It's the same with little moments of beauty. Let's say you see a stunning sunset, full of colors that take your breath away. It's a powerful moment. And it might even feel spiritual, like a glimpse of something greater than yourself. That's wonderful. Appreciate it. Let it touch your heart, and then move on. But if you start thinking, "I need to have this feeling all the time. I should buy a house here so I can see this sunset every day," then you've let the beauty of the moment turn into something that weighs you down. Whether it's a difficult experience or a beautiful one, the key is the same. Don't hold on to it. Let it enrich you in the moment, and then let it pass. That way, you stay free, open, and ready for whatever comes next. Life is full of moments, good and bad, but they're meant to flow through you, not stay stuck inside you. So, what's wrong with simply appreciating that? When life gives you a gift, the best thing to do is say, "Thank you." But what do most of us do? We grab onto it, cling to it, and try to make it stay. We create stress around it because deep down, we feel we don't get many moments like that. Let's be real. Compare how many things you don't like in your day to the rare moments that blow you away. Most of the time, we're complaining. "I don't like the weather, my clothes, what someone said or didn't say. I don't like how my day is going. Why didn't this person call me? Why did they talk to someone else instead of me?" And then something trivial happens, like spilling ketchup on your clothes, and suddenly you're frustrated all over again. Now think about how many moments genuinely light you up, like a beautiful sunset. These moments are rare, so you cling to them when they happen. That clinging comes from your ego. Your ego is like a thief. It robs you of joy while pretending it's working to make you happy. It convinces you that if you just get what you want, you'll feel good. But how well has that worked? You've spent your whole life chasing happiness. And what do you have to show for it? A vacation you liked once? A relationship that worked for a while? Here's the truth. Your ego is keeping you from feeling joy all the time. Joy isn't meant to depend on whether things go your way, but your ego makes your happiness conditional. It says, I'll only be happy if these specific things happen, and I'll be miserable if they don't. Now, if I asked you to write down the 5 things that would make you completely happy, you'd probably come up with a short list. Maybe a dream job, a perfect relationship, a big house, or some ideal life scenario. But those 5 things are actually what's destroying your happiness. Why? Because you've made them the conditions for your joy. Meanwhile, life is full of millions of experiences happening all around you every single day. But they're not on your list, so you overlook them. You're stuck thinking, I can't be happy unless my specific conditions are met. That mindset shuts you off from most of the beauty in life. Instead of clinging to your preferences, imagine saying, bring it on. Let life happen. Let me enjoy whatever comes my way. That's freedom. Here's a story to help you understand this. There was a spiritual teacher, Ma Yoga Shakti, who found joy in the strangest situations. Once, she told someone, don't you just love it when people yell at you? There's so much energy in it. She didn't let her ego block her from finding joy, even in challenging moments. The ego traps you by making joy conditional. It says, I'll only feel good if the things I want happen, and if the things I don't want don't happen. That's why so many people live in constant worry, afraid they won't get what they want, or that something bad might happen. But here's the breakthrough. When you let go of your ego's conditions, you don't have to chase happiness anymore. Joy is already there, waiting for you. You just have to stop blocking it. First, imagine this scenario. You're constantly wondering, why is my life like this? Why do I feel stuck? Why do bad things keep happening? For many people, the first reaction is to blame others. Mom, dad, a partner, a teacher, or even life itself. You might think, they messed me up. They're the reason I feel this way. But the truth is, it's not about what anyone else did to you. It's about how you dealt with those situations. You didn't know how to handle them. Maybe they were painful, scary, or just too much to face. So instead of letting those experiences pass, you held on to them. When something negative happened, you might have suppressed it, pushed it down, or resisted it because it was too painful to deal with. Or when something positive happened, you might have clung to it because it felt so rare and special. Either way, these reactions created a version of you inside, a self-concept filled with stored emotions, fears, and attachments. This version of you limits your joy, creates worry, and shapes how you experience life. The difference is in how you handle the moment. If you can deal with it, it passes. If you can't, it lingers inside you, adding another layer to that inner self-concept that limits your joy. Here's the goal. You want every experience, good or bad, to be just that. An experience. Something that happened in this incredible universe as you're passing through time and space. That's how great beings live. This leads to a powerful realization. It's not the world or other people that screwed you up. You've been holding on to these experiences, and that's what's affecting you now. But don't beat yourself up over this, because everyone has been through tough times. Everyone. Yes, bad things happen. Some people go through worse things than others, but what matters is how you respond. If you can face those moments, grow from them, and let them go, they won't control your life. But most of us were never taught to let go. In fact, we were often told to do the opposite. If someone hurts you, the world often tells you to hold a grudge, resent them, talk about it endlessly, or even try to get revenge. All of that keeps the pain alive inside you. It runs your life, whether you realize it or not. The next stage of growth is understanding this. I did this to myself. Not in the sense that you caused the bad event to happen, but in how you reacted to it. Life will always bring challenges. If you hold on to them instead of letting them go, that's on you. This doesn't mean you deserved the bad things or that it's some kind of punishment. It's not about karma in that way. Life is a teacher. Challenges come to help you grow. If you hurt someone in the past because you weren't aware of how selfish you were being, life will eventually teach you the lesson you need to learn. This isn't some cosmic punishment. It's a gift. It's life giving you a chance to grow, to become more conscious, and to see things differently. Every experience, even the hard ones, is an opportunity to learn. When you start to see life this way, everything changes. Instead of blaming others or feeling like a victim, you take responsibility for how you handle things. You let go of what you've been carrying, and you open yourself up to more joy, more peace, and more freedom. Life isn't trying to punish you, it's trying to teach you. And when you understand that, you can start living differently. First, understand this. It's not about whether you caused an event to happen or whether you deserved it. Don't go down that road. It's about whether or not you could handle what happened. When something happened, maybe someone said something hurtful or did something unexpected, you might have reacted badly. Instead of staying calm, you got upset, overreacted, or made decisions in the heat of the moment. Maybe you yelled, blamed them, broke things off, or even ruined the relationship. Was it because of what they did? It was because you couldn't handle what they did. Think about it. How many relationships, friendships, or situations fall apart because one or both people couldn't handle their emotions in the moment? For example, you might think, I can't believe you did that. I would never have done something like that. And that's probably true. You wouldn't have. But that's because you're not them. Every person's mind works differently. Why? Because we've all had different life experiences. Your thoughts, emotions, and reactions are shaped by what you've been through, and so are theirs. When you say, I never thought you would do something like that, it's because you're judging them based on how you think. But no one thinks exactly like you. They can't. They've lived a completely different life than you. Psychology even tells us that people are shaped by their unique experiences. Since no one else has had the exact same experiences as you, not even your closest friend or partner, they will never think or feel exactly like you do. Can you accept that? Can you understand that everyone is different? That their actions and choices will never perfectly align with your expectations because they've walked a different path? People change all the time. You might feel like you know someone in the morning, but by evening, they've had new experiences. Maybe they had a bad day, got some surprising news, or met someone who changed their perspective. This is life. People's thoughts and feelings shift because of what they go through. No two people will ever see the world in exactly the same way. Here's where waking up comes in. You realize that it's not the events in your life that made you anxious, scared, worried, or upset. It's the fact that you couldn't handle those experiences as they happened. Instead of letting them pass, you held on to them. You stored those emotions inside and let them shape how you see yourself and the world. Over time, those stored experiences built up into what we call the ego, that voice in your head that says, "This is who I am, and everyone around me better act a certain way." Now, the good news is, once you wake up to this truth, you can start to change. You realize the problem isn't the world around you, it's how you respond to it. Yes, there's good in the world, and yes, there's bad in the world. But the real question is, can you handle it? When life throws something your way, good or bad, can you let it happen, accept it, and let it go? Can you let it pass through you without holding on to it? This is the key to peace. When something happens, instead of clinging to it or pushing it away, you let it come in. You give it a little love, acknowledge it for what it is, and then let it move on. And this applies to everything. The first step to true freedom is learning to let things pass through. Not some things, everything. That's how you stop storing pain, worry, and frustration inside. That's how you stop letting life events define who you are. Instead, you stay open, letting life flow through you without resistance. People often says, "Oh my God, how can I even do that?" First of all, I know you might not be able to do it right now. But guess what? You can learn. The real question isn't whether you can learn, it's whether you want to learn. When I ask people that, they often say, "No, I don't want to learn. If I try, I'll just get hurt again." And then they add, "I'll just do something else to make sure I never have to deal with that again." But here's the thing. That mindset has consequences. Have you ever noticed how fear of getting hurt can mess up your relationships? Maybe someone hurt you once, whether it was by accident, or maybe you misunderstood them. And instead of working through it, you let that fear take over. That's the point where you need to take a step back and reflect. Ask yourself, who's in charge of what's going on inside me? Is it your parents, your friends, your siblings, or your kids? Number, it's just you in there. That's your mind, your space, your house. If it's a mess inside, it's because you let it get messy. Now, I'm not saying life isn't hard. I'm compassionate. I get that life throws difficult situations at you. But here's the truth. If you don't learn to handle those situations, the price you'll pay is huge. It'll mess you up for the rest of your life. Imagine you got into a car accident once. Does that mean you'll never drive again? Or let's say you watched a plane crash on TV. Does that mean you'll never get on a plane again? People let one bad experience define everything. They think planes are so dangerous. But are they really? Planes are statistically safer than cars. Check the numbers. The chances of a plane crash are tiny compared to car accidents. But the problem is the way you let your mind take over. Your mind clings to that one bad experience, and suddenly you're basing your whole life around it. Now, how many miles did you drive without any accidents before you finally had one? Thousands, right? So why let one bad moment outweigh all the good ones? But no, people say, "It hurt me. I broke my arm. I'm never driving again. And if I do, no one else is driving. I'm the driver. That's it." See how this fear limits you? You're not just protecting yourself. You're ruining your life because you refuse to handle what happened. The same goes for relationships, jobs, or any part of life. If someone says or does something you don't like, you need to deal with it. Why? Because it happened, and ignoring it won't make it go away. The alternative is letting it mess you up. But here's the good news. You don't have to let it screw you up. You can decide to grow past it. This is what spiritual growth is about. At some point, you have to realize that your mind can be your biggest problem. If you don't take control of it, it will mess you up. But if you learn to handle your thoughts and emotions, you can stop letting fear and pain run your life. So, you're learning and practicing meditation, breathing, using a mantra, or whatever tools you're trying to help yourself feel okay. That's great. But here's the thing. No way am I going to let someone's words create another mess in my mind. Whether what they said was right or wrong, good or bad, it doesn't matter. Have you ever noticed how fast something negative can stick with you? It takes just 1 second for a hurtful comment or experience to get lodged in your mind, but it can take years or even a lifetime to get rid of it. Who else noticed this? Freud and the entire field of psychology are based on this truth. Someone says one thing to you, just one thing, on a bad day. It cuts deep, and suddenly, it's like a scar on your heart. How long does it take to heal? Sometimes people never fully get over it. Maybe you stay with that person, whether it's for the kids, for convenience, or because you don't want to be alone. You might even put on a happy face and act like things are fine. But deep down, the way your heart once opened up to them might never feel the same again. All because of that one event. You catch yourself thinking, I can't trust you anymore. Those words, I can't trust you, are powerful, right? Who here has said or heard those words before? Now, what does trust even mean? Usually, when people say they trust someone, they mean, I trust that you'll act the way I expect you to. I trust you'll do what I want and avoid doing what I don't want. In other words, they're saying, I trust that you're like me. I've projected my own expectations onto you, and I trust that you'll live up to them. But here's the thing. That's not what trust is. Why? Because the other person isn't you. They never were. If you want real trust, it's not about expecting someone to meet your standards. Real trust sounds like this. I trust that you'll be true to yourself. And guess what? That's going to happen anyway, because they're always going to be themselves, not you. Real trust means believing that the other person will do their best to be the best version of themselves. Not the best version of you or some image you've projected onto them. And here's the hard part. If they mess up, trust means believing they'll work on themselves to get better. It's not about them becoming the version of them you want to see. It's about them striving to be the best version of who they are. Because let's be honest, expecting someone else to be the person you've imagined them to be, that's never going to work. Trust them to be themselves and let go of the need to control or define who that should be. Wake up. Seriously, it's time to wake up. Wake up to what's really going on around you. When you wake up, you start to realize something important. The problem isn't the events themselves. Nope. The problem is how you react to them. That's the real deal. Events happen. That's life. Ever heard that line from John Lennon? Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. Think about it. Life doesn't always go the way you want it to, does it? Be honest. You don't even have to raise your hand for this one. You already know it's true. Life isn't here to match your expectations. It's not supposed to. That's just how it works. Now, who are you, really? You are the sum of your learned experiences, all the things you've been through, all the lessons you've picked up along the way. That's what psychology says, and you know it's true. What else could you be? the sum of experiences you didn't have. That doesn't make sense. But here's the thing. The moment you are in right now isn't the sum of your learned experiences. Nope. This moment, the one happening right in front of you, is the result of its own learned experiences. Everything in the universe works through cause and effect. Every action, every choice, every force, through time and space, has led to this exact moment. Science explains it like this. Events are caused by a chain of other events. It's not personal. It's just how the universe works. Take something like a hurricane. Why does it happen? Not because of you. It's the result of forces, wind, water, temperature, all coming together. It's the same with life. The outer world, your experiences, even the people in your life, are all shaped by their own learned experiences. Someone has a bad day. That's about their experiences, not you. Your day, your mood, your reactions, those are about your learned experiences. And then bam, all these forces collide in a single moment. So when life doesn't go your way, stop fighting it. It's not supposed to be exactly how you want it. Why? Because it can't be. Everything in that moment, the people, the circumstances, the universe itself, is exactly the way it is because of all the forces that came before it. Not because it's good or bad, not because it's right or wrong, but because that's just how it had to be. Every moment you experience is the end result of an uncountable number of causes stretching back to the beginning of time. Every moment in the universe is like this. So, don't stress about what's supposed to happen. It's happening exactly the way it's meant to. Why? Because it's the only way it could happen, given everything that's come before. The moon is in the sky tonight. Not because you feel like being romantic, or because its light happens to shine through your bedroom window. It's there, because that's where it's supposed to be, following its own path. The moon's position has absolutely nothing to do with you. Here's the truth. Things in life aren't the way you think they are because they're not supposed to match your thoughts or expectations. And honestly, your thoughts about how things should be, they're limited. So limited it's almost funny. Right now, you're having an experience, sure. But think about this. How much are you missing? How many things are happening in the world, in the universe, that you're not even aware of? How much of reality are you actually experiencing versus how much is going on that you'll never see, hear, or feel? The ratio is staggering. Reality is massive. It's the sum total of every force that's ever existed, moving through time and space. It's all connected, all in balance, all happening as it should. That doesn't mean reality is right or wrong, good or bad. It just is. And that's the essence of Zen. It simply is. Things are the way they are, not the way you want them to be. And the big question is, can you handle that? Can you handle the raw truth of the moments that unfold in front of you without trying to twist them into what you think they should be? Eventually, if you're paying attention and working on yourself, you'll wake up to a deeper understanding. You'll see that all the stuff you've stored in your mind, your preferences, your likes and dislikes, your worries, hopes, dreams, fears, it's clutter. And that clutter is what's making life so hard for you. When you cling to all that stuff, it creates chaos. It's built your overthinking mind. It's the reason you fight with reality. The reason you feel disappointment or frustration. Then, one day it hits you. If you hadn't stored all that stuff in your mind, it wouldn't be there. And you wouldn't be so hung up on how things should be. You'd be okay with the way things actually are. And that's the breakthrough. You realize I need to be okay with reality. I need to stop fighting it. That's the essence of spirituality. It's not about escaping life or forcing it into some perfect shape. It's about learning to embrace what's real as it is. So, how do you do that? How do you stop fighting reality and start being okay with it? Here's the key. It's not about reality itself. That's already happening. The key word is learn. You have to learn to be okay with what is. It's a process. It's not automatic, and it's not easy, but it's possible. And that's where the real work begins. Handling reality is no different. You have to learn how to do it, just like you learn to play a sport or an instrument. It's a skill, and you can learn it. How? The same way you learn anything else. Through practice. Think about how you learn sports. Do you just watch one video or read a rule book and instantly become a pro? No, you practice again and again. Or playing the piano. Do you play a full concert on day one? No, you start with simple scales like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star and practice until your hands get used to it. It's all about repetition. So what does it mean to practice handling reality? It's the same thing. You practice facing real-life moments and learning how to respond differently. It's not some complicated secret or rocket science. It's straightforward. And here's the thing. This might sound too simple, but it's one of the most important spiritual practices you'll ever take on. Learning to handle reality is the key to peace. It's not about changing the world around you. It's about changing how you respond to it. Learn to lift yourself up. There's a teaching in the Gita that says, one should not trample down the selfish self, but raise the selfish self. What does that mean? It's not about beating yourself up or suppressing your struggles. It's about lifting your lower self, the part of you that reacts, complains, or gets caught up in negativity, by tapping into your higher self. Your higher self is the part of you that sees the bigger picture, the calm and wise part that knows what truly matters. That higher self needs to help guide and raise the lower self. And how do you start doing that? By working with yourself moment by moment. You learn to handle reality by, handling reality. That's it. There's no shortcut or magic formula. You have to do the work. And trust me, it's worth it. This practice is just as important, if not more important, than any spiritual technique you'll ever learn. Start small. When little things happen, like someone saying something rude to you, or maybe not saying something you were hoping to hear, don't let it ruin your peace. Your mind will want to react. It'll start spiraling with thoughts like, why did they say that? What's their problem? Or, why didn't they acknowledge me? Do they not care about me? But here's the thing. You've been practicing. You've been working on not letting your mind drag you into these petty, draining thoughts. And because of that practice, you'll start to notice a change. You'll catch yourself before you spiral. You'll learn how to let that trivial garbage go. The same garbage that used to ruin your whole day. Let me tell you something. It's that garbage that's been weighing you down. It's not the situation. It's your reaction to it. When you start mastering how to handle these small moments, you'll be amazed. You'll see how much lighter and freer you feel when you stop letting every little thing control your mood. But don't think this is a one and done deal. Life will keep throwing new challenges at you. Something fresh will come along. And that's fine because you're leveling up. You're training yourself to get more and more comfortable with discomfort. It's not about the heat magically becoming cooler or the slow driver suddenly speeding up. Those things don't change. What changes is you. You learn how to handle it. So ask yourself, wouldn't it be incredible to face life's challenges and still feel calm and in control? Wouldn't it feel amazing to know you can handle whatever comes your way? How do you get there? The same way you get better at anything. Practice. Practice, practice, and more practice. Every moment is a chance to train. Every time something bothers you, remind yourself, this is my opportunity to grow. This is how I raise myself. Bit by bit, you'll see progress. And one day, you'll look back and realize just how far you've come. You'll see that the things that used to ruin your day don't even faze you anymore. That's the power of raising yourself. Now, we're stepping into more advanced spiritual growth. You've been practicing, and you've learned how to handle the smaller stuff, like the heat on a hot day or that slow driver on the road. You've worked on yourself moment by moment. But life doesn't just throw little challenges your way, does it? Sometimes big things happen. We've all been there. Those moments that feel overwhelming, painful, or downright life-changing. Now let me be clear. Handling the big stuff doesn't mean it won't hurt. It doesn't mean it won't shake you up or cause some trouble. But your mindset shifts. You develop an attitude that says, I can handle this. Why? Because you want to handle it. Not because you enjoy the hard times, but because deep down you know this is part of your growth. Think about it. It's no different than dealing with the heat or that slow driver. You've practiced handling those smaller situations, and now you're ready for something bigger. And here's the truth. If you can get through one of those big challenges, you'll realize something life-changing. You'll realize, if I can handle this, I can handle anything. Imagine that. Imagine getting to the point where you're not worried about what life might throw at you next, because you know you've got what it takes to face it. Nobody wants the big, tough moments, but part of you does. Part of you knows that going through it, no matter how long it takes, will change you. When you come out the other side, you'll be stronger, wiser, and calmer. You'll realize, I don't have to be afraid anymore. And that doesn't mean fear disappears. Fear is a natural human emotion. It's part of life. But here's the key. You're no longer afraid of the fear. Now, contrast that with how most of us live. We're afraid of everything. Sure, it's reasonable to feel fear if, say, a lion is charging at you. That's survival. But what about the fear of someone judging you? The fear of people talking behind your back? The fear of not looking good enough or not being liked? Most people are terrified of that stuff. But imagine if you weren't. Imagine if self-consciousness popped up and you just noticed it, looked at it, and then let it go. But let's get one thing clear. Freedom isn't about doing whatever you want whenever you want. It's not about giving yourself the freedom to indulge every whim or desire. Real freedom is something deeper. It's freedom from yourself. What does that mean? It's freedom from that inner voice, the one that constantly wants, demands, and complains. You know the one. It's the part of you that's never satisfied, always chasing something, always saying, if I just had this, I'd be happy. That part of you, she's the one making your life harder, not easier. Think of her like a spoiled child in a toy store. If you give that child every single toy they cry for, what happens? Do they suddenly become happy and content? Number. They just keep crying for the next thing, and the next, and the next. That's what happens when you feed your ego. Your ego, the part of you that's always craving something more, isn't the solution. It's the problem. Now, this doesn't mean you have to renounce everything or give up all your desires. It's not about living like a monk in a cave. It's about wisdom. It's about stepping back and realizing, I don't want to spend my whole life listening to this voice in my head. When you stop feeding your ego's endless demands, you create space to deal with the bigger challenges in life. That's the next stage of growth. You begin to understand that you don't have to worry about everything because you can handle it. This doesn't mean bad things won't happen. Life is unpredictable, and you can't control what's coming. So no, I can't promise that nothing bad will happen. I can't even promise that the things you want will come to you. But here's the thing. You don't need to control or predict everything. You just need to know that you can handle whatever comes. Now, let's talk about attracting what you want. I get it. There's a stage of spirituality where people focus on manifesting or drawing things into their lives. Things like a house, a relationship, or maybe even a child. That's fine. Go ahead and pursue those things if you feel you need them. But here's something to think about. How did you decide what you wanted in the first place? Most of the time, it's because you feel like something's missing, right? You're not okay as you are. And your mind tells you, if I get this one thing, then I'll be okay. And you know what? That's fine. Go for it. Seriously, if you feel like you need to chase those things, do it. It's part of the process. But over time, as you grow, you might realize something. No matter how much you feed that part of yourself, it's never truly satisfied. True freedom comes when you stop chasing and start stepping back. When you realize you're okay even without all the things your ego tells you to want. And when you reach that point, you'll discover something amazing. You're free. Free from the endless cycle of wanting and chasing. Free to just live, grow, and handle life as it comes. That's real freedom. At some point, you're going to get it. You'll stop and say, okay, I got what I wanted. But then what happens? You want something else, right? Of course you do. Nobody ever gets what they want and never wants anything again. That's just how it is. But what I'm talking about is something deeper. Something bigger than just getting what you want. I'm talking about growing to a place inside yourself where you don't have these endless wants anymore. You're okay. So, what replaces all that noise inside? Those constant worries, anxieties, and endless efforts to chase after things or complain when you don't get them. What happens when all that fades away? Let me tell you, something beautiful takes its place. That energy you used to spend worrying, wanting, fearing, it doesn't disappear. It transforms. That same energy starts flowing freely inside of you. You feel it. It's like a rush, a shocky, electric kind of flow. Think about a time when you felt something extraordinary, like watching a breathtaking sunset or falling head over heels in love. Remember how that felt? That overwhelming, beautiful energy? That was because you opened up. You weren't holding back. You let the moment in. And energy started flowing. Now imagine learning to live like that. Not closing yourself off, no matter what happens. Why? Because you can accept reality. And when you truly get to this place, you make a decision. I will never close myself off again. Why? Because the trade-off isn't worth it. The energy, that beautiful flow inside of you is so amazing that nothing, no insult, no setback, no disappointment, is worth giving it up. It's like someone offering you $1 in exchange for $1 million. Would you do it? Of course not. Or imagine someone saying, if you let what I said upset you, you'll never feel love again. Would you give up that love for their words? No way. This is the next stage of growth. You choose to stay open no matter what. Now, This doesn't mean you don't deal with life or handle situations when they come up. You still take action when necessary. But your actions don't come from a place of fear, anger, or self-protection. First, you get yourself clear. You clean up the emotions, process what's happening, and find your center. You might not get it perfect every time, but you do the work to get reasonably calm and balanced. Then, once you've handled it internally, you ask yourself, is there something I can do here to make things better? Can I help the other person? Can I bring good energy to this situation? At this point, you're no longer acting out of your own neediness or fear. Instead, you're acting because you genuinely want to help, to raise the energy, to bring something positive into the world. This doesn't mean you shy away from challenges. You can still be an activist, stand up for what's right, or work to create change. But it's different now. You're not doing it because you can't handle the way things are, or because you're trying to dump your fear and frustration into the world. If you act out of fear, anger, or anxiety, you're just spreading those emotions around. But when you act from a place of strength and peace, you bring love, clarity, and solutions to the table. Here's the key. You have to be able to handle what's in front of you before you can help raise it. For example, if you can't handle the sight of blood, you're not going to make a good first responder at an accident scene. You'd bring more panic than help. But when you've worked on yourself, when you can handle the situation, you step in not to fix it for your own comfort, but to truly help. You're no longer saying, I need to protect myself because I can't handle this. Instead, you're saying, I'm okay. Now, how can I serve? How can I bring love or a solution to this moment? That's the next stage of spiritual growth. It's about shifting from protecting yourself to giving yourself. It's about stepping out of fear and into love, not just for you, but for the benefit of others. These moments we're talking about, they're not temporary. They're not just fleeting experiences like a trip you took or a deep meditation session you had. Those things are great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to tell you not to meditate or to diminish those moments. But here's the real question. What do you do when you're not meditating? What do you do when life is happening and you're out there dealing with the world? That's where serious growth happens. Eventually, you reach a place where your inner world is beautiful. Not just sometimes. Always. Why? Because you've stopped making it messy. You've stopped blocking the energy inside of you. You've stopped resisting life and creating chaos in your own heart. When you let go of all that resistance, the energy inside you starts to flow. It's not stuck anymore. It moves freely, and it nourishes you in ways you might not have imagined. You might wonder, why doesn't everyone talk about this? But they do. Even Christ talked about it. Remember when he said, "Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God"? That's exactly what this is about. The bread is everything external, the stuff we think we need to be okay. But that's not enough. There's something more, something internal. And that's the Shakti, the spirit, the energy flowing inside of you. Call it whatever you want. It's the same thing. When you start living off that internal energy, everything changes. You don't need to rely so much on what's outside of you to feel okay. And once that flow starts, you realize it's too precious to give up. Think of it this way. Would you trade $1 million for $1? Of course not. That's the same as giving up this beautiful inner energy just to get caught up in something small and temporary. When you stay open, this energy flows all the time. You don't have to do anything to make it happen. Just don't block it. is not about effort. It's about letting go. The more you let go, the more you feel it. This brings you to a profound realization. You start asking, who is experiencing this? It's not about thinking. It's beyond thoughts. It's about realizing that there's a part of you, your consciousness, that is aware of this beautiful flow. And then it hits you. That consciousness is the most important thing in the universe. It's not the energy itself. It's the awareness that experiences it. As you go deeper, you stop focusing outward, even on the beauty of the energy. Instead, you begin to turn inward, toward the source of that consciousness. This is what the great spiritual teachers were talking about. When Christ said, "You must die to be reborn," he wasn't talking about physical death. He meant letting go of your attachment to the ego, to your identity, to everything you think you are. You stop clinging to the idea of yourself as separate. You stop identifying with the little drop of water that is you and allow it to merge with the vast ocean of consciousness. This is the ultimate union. This is yoga, not just a physical practice, but the true meaning of the word, which is union. Christ himself said, "My Father and I are one." That's what he meant. He was talking about merging with the source of consciousness, becoming one with it. But right now, most of us are stuck staring at the stuff we've built up in our minds, our fears, our wants, our anxieties. We think we need to fix all that to be okay. But the truth is, we need to let it go. Start small. Practice letting go of little things. Acknowledge when discomfort or resistance comes up. Breathe through it and release it as best you can. You don't have to be perfect. This is a lifelong journey. As you practice, the Shakti, the energy, will begin to awaken inside of you. People all over the world who've done this work talk about how much joy and peace they feel. But it's not just about feeling good. There's still work to do. You have to cleanse yourself from within, clear out the old patterns and blockages. Thank you for listening.